15 haunted stories revealed from Reddit's dark side, sinister and unexplained horrors exposed. Emily's heart pounded in her chest, the shadows stretching like fingers across the walls of the diner as she scrubbed away the remnants of another late shift. Clinging to her fragile sanity, she struggled to push aside thoughts of the nagging bills waiting for her at home, each one a ghost whispering of doom. Each evening, as she stepped into the chill of the night, she couldn't shake the feeling that a storm of dread was gathering just beyond the comfort of her quaint suburban town. Little Leo was always left to navigate his own small world while she worked the late hours. Each night, she returned home to find him sprawled on the living room floor, lost in a world that felt both innocent and eerily disconnected. But tonight, something felt different. Ominously so. As she cleaned the counter, the unshakable weight of an unsettling feeling clung to her like fog, suffocating and invasive. Unbeknownst to her, the darkness was already creeping in. Just behind the diner, a tattered bundle caught her eye, the kind of thing that shouldn't be there. Curiosity pricked at her, leading her behind the spinning neon lights. With trembling hands, she unwrapped it to reveal faded photographs of smiling families, their eyes staring blankly like restless spirits. As she flipped through the brittle pages, her breath caught. Each tale told of local families who had simply vanished, swallowed by the town without a trace. The chilling knowledge sank into her, guiding her to an online forum filled with horrifying stories echoing the same mysteries. Every click sent a jolt of fear running through her veins, knitting dark connections between her neighborhood and unspeakable tragedies. Before she could catch her breath, her phone rang, with Leo's voice breaking through her reveries, his innocent curiosity twisting into fear. "Mom, someone keeps calling. It's him, the watchman." Paranoia clutched at Emily's throat. Who was this watchman? The voice on the other end was a haunting static, each message dripping with knowledge of Leo's every move, from his school to what he had for lunch. The boy was haunted by nightmares that twisted into dark realities. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The fear layering in Emily's mind was thick enough to choke. She reached out to authorities, desperation clawing at her as each plea for help slipped away into apathy. The townsfolk exchanged knowing glances, thick with distrust and dismissal. The quaint smiles plastered on their faces began to rot, revealing a morbid curiosity about the darkness she felt lurking everywhere. With each passing day, the scary whispers had her racing towards the old abandoned school, a building stained with rumors. As she approached, dread wrapped around her heart, and she took a step into its festering silence. Shadows curled, shivering at her presence. Leo's hands trembled in hers, his wide eyes soaking up the darkness between the walls. Then, just as it felt as if all hope had slipped away, a soft ring sent a chill down her spine. The watchman was calling again. His voice echoed through the abandoned halls, slicing through the oppressive silence. "Your son is in danger," echoed the static. Emily realized her battle was no longer just remote. It was among the facades of her neighbors. As she grasped at shaky truths, the walls seemed alive with memories. The air throbbed thick with secrets waiting to be exposed, danger festering just beneath the surface. But time was slipping away, and the last chilling thought reverberated through her mind. What would happen if the watchman got too close? With her hand clutching Leo's, she steeled herself for the terror that awaited in the shadows. The whispers grew louder as they stood side by side in the decaying atmosphere of the old school. Emily's heart raced, heavy with fear, each thump echoing like distant thunder. Shadows danced around them, twisting in grotesque shapes. She glanced at Leo, his face drained of color, dread pooling in his innocent eyes. Could the watchman really reach him here? The question clawed at her as she tried to gather her scattered thoughts. "Mom, we should go," Leo urged, a tremor in his voice slicing through her haze of panic. She tightened her grip on his hand, panic flaring at the edges of her sanity. How could they escape from something that seemed woven into the very fabric of their lives? "Let's find out what he wants," she whispered, though the thought filled her with icy dread. The watchman was a specter haunting her mind, and she needed answers. Every instinct screamed to run, to shield Leo from this impending threat, but curiosity and terror had conjoined, pulling her deeper into the darkness. With a deep breath, she moved further into the school, the air growing colder, as if the walls were exhaling despair. The hallway stretched, littered with broken desks and fading memories. Faint laughter echoed in the distance, but there was no joy in it, just an unsettling pitch, hollow and mocking. Emily's resolve wavered. Over there, Leo pointed towards an open doorway at the end of the hall, its edges splintered and dark. A flickering light spilled out, flickering as if trying to break free from the shadow that clung to it. Emily swallowed hard, each step towards the doorway feeling like walking through molasses, heavy with dread. When they reached the entrance, the air felt charged, throbbing with a palpable energy. She hesitated, her heart pounding with foreboding. "Ready?" she asked, voice barely a breath. Leo nodded, though uncertainty flickered in his eyes. They stepped inside, the light dimming as the door creaked shut behind them. Faint, static-filled murmurs surrounded them, words overlapping harmoniously. As she strained to listen, she could just make out fragments. "He sees you, all of you. Find the truth." A shudder coursed through her. The room was filled with more photographs, clumped and chaotic. Families smiling brightly, yet their eyes spoke of something sinister. Something was wrong, very wrong. "Mom, look!" Leo's voice trembled, pointing at one snapshot pinned crookedly on the wall. Her breath hitched in her throat, icy fear freezing her limbs. It was a photo of her and Leo, smiling in their living room, unknowing. "Where did this come from?" she stammered, a cold sweat breaking out on her brow. The sensation that they were being watched clawed at her insides. "Mom!" Leo gasped, pulling her back. A shadow had moved in the corner of the room, gaining form. A tall figure stepped into the light, face obscured, but Emily could feel its eyes, piercing and all-knowing. "Your fragile reality is crumbling," it rasped, voice dripping like venom. "And it's all about to unravel." The world twisted as the shadows lunged closer, the watchman's laughter echoing around them, filling every crevice. Emily's heart raced like a trapped animal as she realized the truth. Escaping the watchman wouldn't be about running. It would be about outsmarting him. But deep down, she recognized a more terrifying thought. What if, in a world where every truth was a lie, she couldn't even trust her own instincts? Just as she steeled herself for the confrontation ahead, the watchman's voice sliced through the chaos, chilling her blood. Time to play the game. What would happen when the final move was made? Emily shoved Leo behind her, the pounding of her heart echoing in her ears as the watchman's laughter faded into an eerie silence. The tension in the air thickened, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. The tall figure loomed, dark and monstrous, every inch of him exuding a sense of inevitability, a weight that pressed down on everything familiar. "Mom, what do we do?" Leo whispered, his voice barely breaking the stillness. "Stay close," she replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. The uncertainty thrumming between them was like a live wire. They might have stumbled into the watchman's domain, but she was determined not to be a pawn in his game. With each careful step, she edged closer to the figure, the shadows rolling off him like thick smoke. The flickering light did little to illuminate its features, but the intensity of its gaze was unmistakable. It held her captive, searching for fear, for weakness, and she could feel it deep in her bones. "Why are you here?" she demanded, trying to summon courage she didn't feel. "What do you want with us?" The watchman tilted his head, a subtle movement that sent a ripple of panic racing through her. "You've come seeking
answers, yet you bring only questions that dig deeper into the void," he rasped. Lightning flashed outside, momentarily casting the room in bright relief. In that instant, she saw the flicker of something behind him, flashes of images too quick to comprehend. Faces twisted in agony, the colors swirling through grief and madness. She recoiled, a gasp escaping her lips. "Enough!" Emily shouted, her voice rising, desperation fueling her resolve. "We want to leave!" "Leave?" The watchman's voice twisted into an echo, his laughter resuming, high and cruel. "You think you can escape what was meant to be? You are threads in a tapestry woven long before you arrived, and tonight you will play, or you will perish." "What do you mean?" Leo squeaked, fear clenching the little boy's voice like a fist. "Look around you, child." The watchman gestured to the photographs. Each face smiled back at them, oblivious to the dark fate that awaited them. They all believed they were safe too. They thought they could play by their own rules. Emily's stomach dropped. It was clear now. The photographs weren't just mementos, they were warnings. Each captured moment hummed with dread, a history of lives that had been engulfed by the watchman's grasp. "Play this game with me, and I will allow your reality to remain intact. Fail, and you will join these lost souls." He stepped closer, his presence practically swallowing the dim light. "What will it be, Emily, Leo? Will you step deeper into the nightmare?" She felt Leo's grip tighten around her hand, the warmth of his small palm anchoring her resolve. She couldn't let him wither. "We refuse to play," she declared, her words slicing through the stagnant air. A flicker of anger crossed the watchman's features, and the room exploded into chaos. The photographs raged to life, swirling around them as screams echoed, a cacophony of horror that seared her soul. Emily dug her feet into the ground, forcing herself to fight the overwhelming urge to flee. "Fight back! Keep your eyes open!" she shouted to Leo, but the shadows surged around them, clawing, tearing at the edges of her sanity. The darkness grew thicker, swallowing the remnants of light, and for the first time, fear coursed through her veins, not just for herself, but for her son. And then, in the heart of the turmoil, the watchman spoke again, his voice low and deadly. "So be it. But know this, every choice has a price." And just like that, the room went silent, the world collapsing around them. Emily's heart raced as a new realization crashed down upon her. What if the game they were forced into was not just a battle to escape, but a twisted choice that would change them forever? The ground beneath them shifted. Could they win this game before it consumed them? With dread creeping back in, she scanned the shadows for a way out, breathing in the tension of impending doom. The time for decisions was running out, and every second brought them closer to a reality they could never bear.
Reaching out to grab them, and Emily screamed as everything around them melted into darkness. A freezing chill coursed through her veins, pulling her down. She felt Leo's hand slip from hers. No! Panic surged as she reached desperately into the abyss. "Mom, help! I'm coming!" she screamed into the dark, desperately clawing for any trace of Leo, the icy tendrils of dread wrapping tighter around her throat. Just then, she felt something, an unseen force, a whisper racing through her mind. It urged her forward, deeper into the void, muddy memories flooding her thoughts. Shadows danced around her, vying for her attention, each one a different history, a different fate. Emily's breath hitched. Was this madness? The darkness roared, and she had to make a choice. But which path would lead her back to Leo? Could she even find him in this bleak nightmare? The flickering presence suddenly seized her heart, and the shadows whispered secrets she couldn't ignore. She felt drawn to one particular memory, lost yet familiar. But then, from somewhere deep in the darkness, a voice called out, familiar and echoing, "Emily!" She gasped, dread washing over her. What if they were not alone after all? Could they survive the watchman's game? Or would they become the next whispered ghost in his tapestry? The cacophony swirled, every second a weight that pressed down harder. The choice stretched before her, each option darker than the last. Would she dare step further into the depths, seeking her son in a world where shadows stood waiting to claim them both? The darkness closed in around her like an inky shroud, thick and menacing. Yet that voice, her name, so close, so achingly familiar, pulled her deeper into the void. "Emily!" The whisper was softer this time, coaxing her, promising comfort. Her heart raced as she stumbled forward, the chilling air whipping past her face, raising goosebumps across her skin. "Leo!" she shouted, desperate, her voice swallowed whole by the abyss. Each breath turned to ice in her lungs, each step resonating with the weight of her fear. The shadows elongated, clawing at her as if to drag her back, holding her hostage in this nightmare. "Mom, help!" Leo's voice echoed again, sharper this time. She pressed her palms against the hard ground that felt strangely alive, a pulse beneath her fingers that sent vibrations through her arms. The cold swirled, creating ripples of terror that threatened to swallow her whole. Another flicker, a pale light danced ahead, illuminating a figure. It was Leo. He was there, right in front of her, his small body huddled against the walls of the void, where he seemed trapped. The light surged, wrapping around him like a cocoon. "Leo!" she screamed. "Just a little closer," she urged herself. "Come to me, Mom!" he cried, stretching out his arms. But the shadows wriggled between them. Emily's heart sank. The darkness clawed at her heels. "Do not reach for him," hissed the watchman, appearing behind her, his silhouette lurking with a sudden malevolence. "Do not believe
The light. It is but a trap, a lure to keep you ensnared forever." His voice oozed poison, sending shivers of despair rippling down her spine. Emily hesitated, caught between the watchman's grasping fingers and Leo's desperate plea. "Mom, I'm scared." Leo's small voice broke her. She could see the tremor in his hands. The light pulsed rhythmically, beckoning her like a heart in distress. "Stay where you are!" Emily shouted. "I'm coming!" With sheer determination, she surged forward, propelled by a maternal instinct that ignited a fiery resolve within her. She concentrated on Leo, fighting through the chaos. The shadows clawed at her legs, pulling her down, whispering secrets of despair, but she could not falter, not now. As she reached the precipice of the light, it flickered violently again, revealing the hideous faces of the lost buried in the darkness. The sight filled her with horror, but she locked her gaze on her son, who was now surrounded by a shimmering barrier. He was fighting to break through, desperation painted across his features. "Let him go!" Emily screamed, raising her voice against the howling void, each word an act of defiance. The watchman's laughter rang out, piercing her soul. "Do you truly think you can save him?" he taunted, his dark figure looming closer, breathing malice. "You'll have to pay the price, Emily. The shadows demand a sacrifice." In that moment of confrontation, a realization coursed through her veins, fierce and electric. This was indeed a game, a cruel chessboard where decisions carved their fates deliberately. But the power to choose still lay within her, against all odds. "Your strength is nothing against true darkness," the watchman hissed. Yet her heart surged with newfound clarity. The terror that surrounded her may consume her, but it wouldn't claim her son. "Then I will save him!" she shouted defiantly, launching herself into the light. The moment she crossed the threshold, an explosion of energy erupted, blinding white heat, erasing the shadow's grip. She felt the darkness burn within her. "Mom!" A scream echoed. Was it Leo, or was it just another echo of the watchman's cruel machinations? Where she landed, the world shifted and spun, twisting like a kaleidoscope. Emily felt weightless, yet the ground materialized beneath her feet. She shielded her eyes from a blinding light that broke through the cotton of the night. Where was Leo? The light began to dim, shadows creeping back at the edges of her vision. Panic seized her heart like a vice. "Leo!" she called, fear clawing at her throat. But the silence that followed sent a chill through her. The watchman's laughter returned, low and mocking. "Run, Emily. The game has only just begun." Was Leo still trapped? Was he safe? As shadows swirled and memories crashed like waves, she felt the tangled maze of anguish envelop her once again. What price would she pay? The light dimmed, and the ever-growing darkness beckoned back. Would she dare step deeper into this game, risking all to find her son as the watchman's trap tightened around her? The air thickened, charged with an electric tension that made every hair on Emily's body stand on end. The dim light left her disoriented, shadows lurking and shifting with unholy life. Where was Leo? Had she truly escaped the cage of darkness, or had she wandered into a new trap laid by the watchman? "Leo!" she shouted again, her voice fracturing with panic. The silence pressed down on her, stifling. No response came, just the mocking echoes of her own breath in the emptiness. Heart pounding, she took a cautious step forward, the ground beneath her feeling shaky, unstable. Memories flickered like faulty bulbs. Glimpses of Christmas mornings, laughter, Leo's tiny hands in hers as they darted through sun-soaked fields. Those memories felt distant now, viewable through a murky glass that threatened to shatter. "Mom, help me!" The scream pierced through the veil of silence, cold and keen like a knife. A shiver raced up her spine, and she'd know that voice anywhere. It was Leo, desperate and close, no more than a heartbeat away. She turned to where she thought the sound had come from, urgency flooding her veins. The anguished echoes bounced off the walls of the void. They warped and twisted, chaining her thoughts with dread. "Leo!" She sprinted forward, the winding path stretching out like a grotesque snake, leading her deeper into this nightmarish realm. With each footfall, something shifted under her, a pulsating heartbeat beneath the surface, a reminder of the darkness that clawed at her heels. A flicker of light sparked just ahead, brightening the oppressive gloom. Breathless, Emily pressed towards it. This time, a light didn't recede, but surged as if responding to her presence. Within it, she could see. Was it Leo? Her heart sank as she got closer. It was not him. Another lost soul stood trapped, their face a mask of terror, pleading for freedom. Emily's resolve crumpled momentarily as a chill whisper slithered around her ear. "This is your fault, Emily. You were too late." "Shut up!" she screamed, an act of defiance against the impossibly oppressive atmosphere. But doubt wormed its way into her mind, doubt that made her knees tremble. She glanced back, expecting to see the watchman lingering behind her, his dark form merging with the shadows. But the air felt eerily still now, almost expectant, as if it held its breath along with her. That silence was worse than any word he could have uttered. "Leo, please, answer me," she cried out, desperate to break the shroud of despair. But the only reply was the eerie silence of the void. It closed in, more suffocating than before. And then she sensed it, a presence creeping closer, weaving through the tendrils of shadow. The watchman, lurking in the darkness, observing. "You think you have strength, but your heart is weak. You will fail," he intoned, his voice slithering around her like a serpent. "No, I won't let you take him," she yelled, summoning whatever strength she had left. In that moment, she felt a raw power building inside her spirit, a flicker of hope battling against all-consuming dread. If only she could harness it. With a sudden burst of bravery, she turned her back on the watchful void and faced the darkness around her. "Show yourself, I'm not afraid anymore." As those words left her lips, the shadows twisted and contorted in objection, seething like wounded animals. But behind their cries, something shifted. A hint of laughter echoed, a mix of amusement and contempt. "Do you truly believe your resolve can withstand despair?" the watchman quipped, his voice dripping with malice. "And if it can't, then I'll fight until the last breath in my body," she shouted back, defiance in her heart like a burning ember. In the next heartbeat, a horrible laughter erupted from the shadows, multiplied and swirling around her like a storm. It was coming from everywhere, closing in fast. The flickering light of hope vanished, and for a fleeting moment, she was engulfed in darkness again. But then, a piercing cry, the unmistakable sound of her son, tore through the void. "Mom, help me! I'm scared!" This time, it was a call to arms, wrenching from her heart a surge of determination she could no longer contain. She would not lose him to the darkness, not while she drew breath. "Leo!" she screamed, her voice high and frantic, echoing against the oppressive void surrounding her. Just as quickly, the darkness began to churn violently, as if agitated by her resolve. It writhed and shifted, revealing a faint glimmer in the black. Could it be? Could that small flicker be Leo's light? She plunged forward, the shadows fighting to pull her back. But she pushed through, fueled by love and desperation. "Hold on, Leo, I'm coming." What the shadows unleashed next was pure chaos. Would she seize her son from the grip of the darkness, or would she fall prey to its insatiable hunger? In that moment, with a flicker of fear and hope, Emily prepared for the final confrontation that awaited her in the depths of despair. Could she save Leo, or would they both succumb to the darkness? The ground quaked beneath Emily as she fought against the shadows pulling her back, their icy tendrils winding around her ankles, threatening to drag her down into the abyss. Heart racing, she pushed harder, the flicker of light drawing her toward an unseen promise. Every step felt like a battle. The darkness writhed hungrily, desperate to reclaim its lost prey. "Leo, I'm coming," she shouted again, each word slicing through the oppressive gloom. With each utterance, she felt the shadows recoil, just enough for her to forge ahead. But the darkness had teeth, jagged and filled with malice. As Emily advanced, the faint light seemed to contract, flickering as if it were struggling to stay alive. Her fingers brushed against something cold, a wall, a jagged edge of despair. The light flickered perilously, battling the harrowing gloom like a lone candle. Suddenly, from the depths, she heard it again, Leo's voice, faint yet clear, echoing and agonizing. "Mom, please!" It was drenched in terror, slicing through her resolve like a razor. Instinctively, Emily stumbled, doubt creeping back in. What if she didn't reach him in time? What if the shadow seized her before she could grasp his hand? The unrelenting weight of despair bore down on her chest, tightening like a vice. "Don't let them take you," a voice whispered mockingly, the watchman's voice slithering through the dark. "You cannot save him, Emily. What's lost is lost." With a primal scream, she ripped free from the dark grasp that sought to ensnare her. "No!" She dug her fingernails into the earth, clawing for the light. "I won't let you win!" But the shadows shifted around her, a whirlwind of malevolence. They coiled and twisted, forming grotesque shapes, faces appearing, mouths curling into mocking smiles. Emily felt her resolve shatter, memories of Leo's laughter replaced with the chilling specters of forgotten souls. A sudden burst of strength jolted through her, fueled by the clarity of her love. With shaking breath, she focused on the light ahead. "I see you, Leo!" she cried, her voice surging forward, battling the wails of the lost. "I'm coming! Don't give up!" The faint glow flickered brighter, almost as if it were responding to her confession of maternal strength. She surged ahead, despite the cacophony of tortured souls cloaked in the shadows. The wall felt closer now, pulsing with an energy she couldn't understand, yet desperately needed. "Mom!" Leo's voice cracked, so close it felt physical, wrapping around her heart. It was both a beacon and a weapon against the encroaching despair. In that moment, she plunged back into the darkness, embracing it with the fire of her unyielding will. "I will find you, Leo!" And before her eyes, the shapes of darkness morphed into a swirling vortex. For a brief instant, she caught a glimpse of Leo, silhouetted against a haunting light. His tiny figure trembled, eyes wide with fear, as if warning her of something lurking just behind him. "Leo!" She reached out, stretching her hand toward him. But as she did, the shadows convulsed violently. A howling wind rose, clawing at her sanity, a tempest of voices calling her name, her failures and regrets weaving through the air. "You're too late! This is your fault!" They cried in unison, feral and disdainful. Terror shot through her veins, threatening to snuff out her light, as a new figure emerged, taller, darker, the watchman materializing like mist. "You've already lost," he taunted, voice smooth as silk, all-consuming.
Emily squared her shoulders, anger flaring with desperation. "Not if I don't give up!" In a surge of reckless defiance, she lunged toward the vortex, but the darkness lashed back, slamming into her with agonizing force. The breath was knocked from her lungs, and for a dizzying moment she felt suspended between despair and hope. Then, with one final desperate roar from her heart, she pushed into the maw of shadow and light. "Leo!" And in that split moment of collision, the world erupted into chaos.
Roared, the light pulsed, and Emily felt herself being torn apart. The question rang out, ricocheting in the cavern of her mind. Would she become another lost soul, or would she seize the light for her son? Emily's eyes burst open, the shadows pulling her deeper into the unknown, as the watchman watched with a chilling grin. What awaited her was more than a fight for survival. It was a confrontation with everything she feared. And all she could think was, could she even find Leo before it was too late? Emily gasped, her breath hitching as the world around her shifted abruptly. The darkness receded briefly, revealing a vast cavern lined with ancient stone, glistening veins of silver running through the walls like a web of despair. It reeked of damp earth and an unsettling sweetness, the air thick and hard to breathe. For a moment, she stood frozen, heart pounding as reality crashed back in. "Where am I?" she whispered, dread forming in her gut. The familiar echo of Leo's cries seemed to dissolve and scatter like ashes in the wind. "Mom!" A voice rang out again, clearer now yet more desperate. It pierced through the thick blanket of shadow. Emily's feet sprang to life, propelled by instinct. She dashed forward, the cold ground biting against her bare skin. Against her will, she felt the shadows tugging at her heels, urging her back. "Please, I need you." Leo's voice floated through the cavern, each syllable a dagger in her heart. The shadows around her warped and quivered, eager to envelop her once again. "Hold on, I'm coming," she shouted, her urgency clawing at the silence. She sprinted further into the cavern, hand brushing against the slick walls as she went, each scrape leaving a burning sensation on her skin. The air thickened, pressed down on her shoulders like a heavy coat. Suddenly, the path split into two. To the left, the shadows danced like living creatures, whispering taunts. To the right, the light shimmered faintly, inviting yet ominous. Emily faltered. "Which way?" "Mom, this way!" Leo's voice called, stronger now but more frightened. It came from the dark side, tugging at her intuition even as the chaos swirled around her. The watchman's laughter began to echo again, a chilling sound like the rattling of bones. "Do you really think you have a choice?" he sneered, each word dripping with malice. "What you seek is a lie, just like your hope." Emily felt a surge of defiance, a fire igniting within her. "No," she shouted back, resolving to fight against the despair. But her voice hardly echoed, swallowed by the mounting cacophony of violence lurking within the shadows. "Mom!" Leo cried. The sound trembled with sobs. It rattled her bones. Emily gritted her teeth, moving toward the dark path, heart racing with a demand for action. She stumbled forward, reaching into the swirling depths. The shadows lunged at her, biting at her arms, their icy touch threatening to freeze her resolve. But she pressed on, claws. In the dark, calling out Leo's name, determined to drown out the mocking laughter and horrifying whispers around her. Suddenly, the shadows began to recede, faltering against her shouts of sheer will. The cavern lit up with flickering sparks, and through the growing light she caught a glimpse of a figure, a small silhouette struggling against the bindings of darkness. "Mom!" Leo's face came into view, pale and teetering on the brink of fear. But before she could reach him, the watchman's shadow coiled around her midsection, constricting like a python. "You will pay the price for this folly," he hissed, and terrible pain lanced through Emily as the shadows dug deeper. Her world spun again, moving out of focus as her will threatened to break. But instead of surrendering, she focused on the bond between them, the love that spanned beyond darkness and sorrow. "I will find you, Leo," she shouted, desperation mingling with resolve. With a sudden surge of energy, she tore herself free of the binding shadows, the watchmen screaming in rage and disbelief. Emily stumbled forward, arms outstretched, her heart racing as she fought for her son's light. Just as her fingers grazed Leo's hand, the ground shook violently, and the cavern trembled as if it were alive. A deafening roar echoed, unleashing chaos as shadows rose around them, dark tendrils grasping for both mother and child. "Mom, it's too late!" Leo cried, panic seeping into his voice. In that moment of fusion with the shadows, Emily felt the world shift again. She was not just battling for survival, she was entwined with fear itself. Would she lose him forever in this endless dark? "Emily!" Another voice, distant but familiar, punctured the chaos, making her heart skip. There was more at stake than she realized. Something larger, darker, lurked in the corners of this nightmare. Before she could grasp the meaning, the ground split around them, plunging into an abyss. And as Emily fell, she wondered, was there truly a way back, or was this descent her ultimate demise? The descent felt endless, like time itself had warped into a cruel joke. The wind whipped past Emily, sharp and biting, a reminder of her fragile existence. She was falling, suspended between the pull of despair and the fierce hope to reach her son. A sudden jolt. Emily landed on a cold, solid surface that resonated with a heavy thud. Pain shot through her limbs, but she pushed it aside. She scrambled to her feet, her heart racing. The cavern swallowed her, its oppressive darkness wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. "Leo!" she shouted, her voice echoing in the silence. The air shifted, thickening with tension as distant whispers curled around her, slithering like snakes in the dark. The shadows tangled at her feet, clawing up her ankles, trying to drag her down again. Panic surged. Where was Leo? Was he even here? What if he had been lost to that world of darkness? "Mom!" The voice came back, weak and distant. It clawed at her like a ghost trying to pull her down into despair. Emily forced herself forward, each step a battle against the chilling dread that enveloped her. The cavern seemed to stretch and twist, mocking her efforts. With every inch, the oppressive darkness thickened, wrapping around her throat, squeezing tighter as she ventured deeper. "Please, hold on," she cried out, desperation threading through her voice. She reached ahead, fingers brushing against the stone walls, the slimy texture disgusting beneath her skin. Then, abruptly, she stumbled into a small clearing. Moonlight spilled from an unseen source, illuminating a macabre scene. Shadows flickered just beyond a peculiar circle of silver veins that twisted like serpents at her feet. The air hummed with an unnatural energy, vibrating as if alive. "Mom!" Leo's voice rang out again from within the shadows. "Help me!" His cries lanced through her heart, a reminder of the love that kept her anchored. She stepped closer to the silver markings, feeling its heat pulse against her skin. The shadows hissed like angry spirits, darting back, hesitant to approach the gleam of the silver. What was this place? "Stay where you are, Leo. I'm coming." Her pulse thundered in her ears as she rushed toward the sound, adrenaline driving her forward. But the whispers escalated, a dissonant chorus weaving through the air. "You can't save him," they taunted, each voice layered with layers of fear and malice. "Shut up!" she screamed, shaking her head as tears filled her eyes. But the shadows only laughed, a ghastly symphony echoing around her, cutting deeper than any knife. Fighting back the despair, she concentrated, breathing heavily, summoning every ounce of will. "I refuse to believe you," she shouted at the shadows, her voice sharp like glass. "You're not real. The love for my son is stronger than you." In response, the shadows writhed as if her defiance stung them. A sudden silence fell, heavy and eerie. Then the ground shuddered beneath her. She stumbled back, barely maintaining her balance, as the walls of the cavern began to flicker out of view, erased by a rolling darkness that threatened to swallow everything. "What?" she gasped, the air swirling with uncertainty. Her heart raced as panic clawed at her throat again. "Mom, it's happening!" Leo's voice blended with the crescendo of panic surrounding her. His fear seeped into her bones, fueling her determination. As she steadied herself, the bizarre silver circle pulsed brighter against the encroaching shadows, illuminating the edges of her vision. Something crucial awakened within her, a realization, a connection. This was not just darkness, it was a battlefield. But what was she truly fighting against? "Stay with me, Leo," she yelled into the murky depths. The air crackled with tension, the moment teetering on chaos. And then, in the shifting dark, behind a veil of shadow, a pair of glowing crimson eyes appeared, fixated on her. Emily's breath caught as she locked eyes with the watchman, a malevolent grin stretching across his face. "Did you really think you could escape?" A chill crawled down her spine. This wasn't just a fight for her son. It was a confrontation with a darkness that had long awaited her return. Her thoughts scattered as the cavern trembled again. The silver veins pulsed fiercely, and with a desperate cry, Emily dropped to her knees, reaching toward Leo, and prayed the bond between them would shatter whatever held them captive here. As the shadows surged, threatening to pull her under once more, she understood the choice ahead. Would she embrace the light or succumb to the darkness? And as the cavern roared in defiance, a single question loomed in her mind. What price would she pay to battle the darkness within? Emily's breath came in short gasps, a desperate rhythm fueled by the knowledge of what lay before her. The cavern trembled, shadows swirling like a tempest, their whispers clawing at the fragile walls of her resolve. Yet the pulsing silver veins beneath her stiffened stance seemed to flicker with promise, coaxing her forward even as dark despair curled around her throat. "Mom, I need you!" Leo's voice echoed again, breaking through the darkness like a shard of light. Emily's heart raced, fierce and unyielding, kindling a fire deep within. She couldn't lose him. That thought alone propelled her towards the growing dread, to where the shadows slithered and taunted. The watchman's laughter was a chilling reminder of the stakes. "You think you can stand against me? You're just a mother, lost in the shadows." "No!" she shouted, her defiance rising like a storm. "I am more than that. I am his mother. I will protect him." With each step, she summoned every ounce of strength, every loving memory of Leo. The shared laughter, bedtime stories, the warmth of his tiny hand in hers. Those images lit her path, unraveling threads of fear intertwined with despair. But this was more than just a battle of wills. The shadows, angry and restless, surged forward, their wispy forms inching toward her, scraping against her skin with icy fingers. But Emily pressed on, her pulse matching the rhythm of the pulsing silver veins beneath her feet. Everything she loved was on the other side. "Don't give up!" she screamed again, pushing through the chaos. The darkness recoiled, hissing in fury, as she focused her energy and conviction toward the flickering sound of Leo's voice.
"Stay back!" The watchman's voice seethed, unmistakably enraged. "Game over, Emily. You've already lost." Ignoring his taunts, she felt a rush of clarity. Light streamed through the cavern, illuminating the grotesque shadows. This was a crossroads. The darkness sought to break her, but the love for her son, the hope they shared, twisted into a shield around her. "Leo, I'm coming!" she shouted, throwing herself toward the flickering shadows that surrounded her son. In that moment, a crack of light burst through the darkness, its warmth enveloping her like a hug. Emily pushed forward, ignoring the fading echoes of despair that sought to pull her back. Trust surged within her. Trust in her strength. Trust in the bond they forged against all odds. She reached the silver circle, its glow radiating through her veins. Racing against time, she cried out, "Hear me, you shadows! I will not bow to you. You will not take him." The silver veins pulsed wildly in response, sending ripples of energy cascading throughout the space as the cavern trembled again, this time answering her fierce will. The watchman shrieked, his chilling laughter cracking, panic creeping into his icy voice. "Fool, you cannot wield that power." And yet, that flicker, the essence of her love, ignited, exploding into a blinding wave. Emily spun toward the darkness that wrapped around her son, the seething shadows blurring against the light. "Leo, hold on!" she shouted, her arms stretched towards him. In one motion, she pushed through the remnants of shadow, feeling them part like a wave, revealing Leo, caught in a web of darkness, but untouched by despair. His small face glistened with tears, his blue eyes wide with fear and hope. "Mom!" he cried, arms outstretched, longing and trust merging in that instant. With a final surge of love, she closed the distance, and their fingers intertwined, igniting an electric warmth that surged through both mother and child. The shadows shrieked and writhed, blurring under the brilliance of their bond. Together, they stood against the encroaching darkness. "Now!" she screamed, pulling him to her, feeling Leo's warmth wrap around her, anchoring her against the abyss. The silver veins erupted in blinding light, washing over them, sweeping away the shadows in a ghostly haze that left nothing but resounding silence. The cavern shook and pulsated as they broke free, shadows dissipating like smoke in the air. As they emerged from the darkness, the light of a new dawn flooded their surroundings, illuminating the once gloomy cavern until it shone bright with all the colors of hope. "Mom?" Leo's voice cracked, tears spilling down his cheeks, reflecting disbelief. "I'm here, baby," she said, pulling him close. The weight of their struggle began to lift, the burden of shadows now a mere whisper. And as they stood, wrapped in each other's arms, Emily finally felt the world shift, not just for her, but for every lost soul that the watchman had claimed. The air was alive with possibility, an affirmation that their fear wouldn't win. The watchman's voice echoed, now a distant memory mingled with the remnants of shadow. "You've escaped this time, but darkness will always seek the light." But Emily remained unfazed, her heart swelling. They had won today. Together, with love and courage, they forged their way out of despair. "Let's go home," she whispered, a smile breaking through as Leo gave a small nod, gaze fixed towards the bright horizon ahead. Hand in hand, they stepped out of the shadows and into the light, a beautiful reminder that love could conquer even the darkest of nights. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Every click helps. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.